The black SUV screeched to a stop. 3 masked men yanked Jade Ellington from the vehicle, jamming a gun against her temple. "$12 million or she's dead," one of them snarled. No one paid any mind to the janitor working nearby. They never did. That changed when his mop crashed to the ground, and in 3 swift, economical movements, the kidnappers were all unconscious. Jade stared at this man, this nobody, who moved with the lethal grace of a predator. When a forgotten warrior saves a titan of industry, 2 fractured souls learn that real strength is found in vulnerability, not in dominance. This is their story. Malcolm Hayes was a man who had deliberately made himself unnoticeable. With broad shoulders, calloused hands, and exhausted dark eyes that saw everything, he wore his faded janitor's uniform like a shield of invisibility. At 38, the lines etched on his face told of burdens far heavier than the cleaning cart he navigated through the polished corridors of Ellington Tech. Every night, he would double-check the locks and scan the street before entering the apartment he shared with his daughter. These were habits from a former life. 8 years in Delta Force had branded him with nightmares he carefully concealed from 7-year-old Zara. After losing his wife, Alana, to cancer 3 years prior, he had traded his military career for the anonymity of minimum-wage work. His only mission now was to provide a stable life for Zara, even if it meant being ignored by the rest of the world. Jade Ellington was his complete opposite. At 35, she steered Ellington Tech Innovations with unerring precision. Her locks were always styled in an elegant updo, and her designer suits served as armor against a world she held at a calculated remove. Orphaned at 12, she had constructed her cybersecurity empire on a foundation of relentless drive and brilliant strategy. Away from the public eye, she endured 18-hour workdays, her penthouse apartment a sterile, empty space devoid of personal warmth. The business world dubbed her the Ice Queen of Silicon Valley. At night, she would gaze at the city lights below, feeling only the hollow emptiness of success achieved without connection. The kidnapping attempt was just the most recent danger in a life where she believed trust was a liability and vulnerability was a fatal flaw. It was a Friday evening at Ellington Tech headquarters. Jade was working late, poring over acquisition papers, when her security chief, Deshaun Miller, interrupted. "We've received another threat, Ms. Ellington. This one is more specific." She dismissed his concern with a flick of her hand. "Bolster security if you feel you must, but I am not canceling my trip to Singapore." Her voice held the unshakable confidence of a person who had never known defeat. The office slowly emptied as darkness fell, leaving Jade alone with her spreadsheets and strategic plans. Her assistant had left her dinner, which sat untouched as always. Outside her window, the city glittered, unaware of the woman who was a key architect of its technological future. She glanced at her watch. It was nearly midnight. It was time to return to her vacant penthouse. The executive parking garage was silent and empty, save for her driver waiting dutifully by the black sedan. The sound of Jade's heels echoed on the concrete as she approached, her thoughts already consumed by the next day's agenda. She barely registered the overhead lights flickering, assuming it was just routine maintenance. "Good evening, Ms. Ellington," her driver said, holding the rear door open. As Jade slid inside, she sensed something was wrong, a strange scent that didn't belong. Before she could process it, a cloth was clamped over her face. She fought back, her nails digging into the leather seats, but consciousness faded into blackness. She awoke disoriented, still in the garage, but now she was surrounded by 3 men in masks. Her driver was outside the car, his face ashen with fear as he held a phone to his ear. "Your company has 10 hours to wire $12 million to this account," the leader instructed her driver through the car window. "If not, your boss won't see the morning." Jade's mind sharpened instantly, analyzing the crisis with the same logical detachment she brought to her business dealings. 3 armed men, professionals, not amateurs. They knew her itinerary and had bypassed her security. Her odds of survival were shrinking with every passing second. Malcolm, mopping a few yards away, immediately recognized the kidnappers' tactical formation. It was military grade, likely private contractors. His mind raced, calculating angles, distances, and threat priorities, an instinctive assessment honed over years of covert missions. An image of Zara's face flashed in his mind. He had promised to make her pancakes in the morning. Getting involved meant exposure, questions, and the shattering of the anonymous life he had so carefully built. For 3 years, he had worked to bury Captain Malcolm Hayes under a janitor's uniform. His daughter needed consistency, not a father who courted danger. But he saw something in Jade Ellington's composed expression, even with a gun to her head, that he recognized. The same unyielding steel he had seen in teammates who refused to crack under interrogation. The leader was getting nervous, pressing the gun harder against Jade's temple. Maybe we need to prove we're not playing games. The decision was made. Malcolm hit the maintenance panel, plunging the area into momentary darkness. He moved with practiced precision, a sweeping leg kick, a sharp elbow strike, a crippling wrist lock. The first man went down unconscious, his fall muffled by the surrounding confusion. The second man fumbled for his weapon, only to have his arm twisted viciously behind him, tendons screaming. The third, the leader, turned to shoot, but Malcolm was already on him, disarming him with a technique reserved for elite operatives. Jade watched, astounded, as the janitor she had passed 100 times without a second glance neutralized 3 armed men in mere seconds. His actions weren't chaotic, they were methodical, efficient, and chillingly professional. When the emergency lights flickered on, bathing the scene in a harsh glow, she found herself looking into eyes that were utterly transformed. They were no longer downcast and forgettable, but sharp, analytical, and already scanning for other threats, even as he finished securing the last attacker. When building security finally arrived, summoned by the driver's panic signal, they discovered 3 restrained kidnappers, a shaken CEO, and a janitor calmly retrieving his mop. "Who are you?" Jade demanded, studying his face as though truly seeing it for the first time. "Just the janitor, ma'am," Malcolm replied, his gaze once again lowered. Already regretting his choice to intervene, he went back to his work. The change was so complete that Jade almost questioned what she had just seen. "No," she stated, her voice firm despite the ordeal. "You're not." He finally met her gaze. "With all due respect, Ms. Ellington, it's better for everyone if I am." As police descended on the garage, Jade watched Malcolm disappear into the background, a new resolve hardening in her eyes. She hadn't built an empire by letting mysteries go unsolved. She was going to find out who had just saved her life and why he was hiding behind a janitor's cart. The following morning, Jade sat in her office, replaying the security footage on a large monitor. She analyzed Malcolm's movements frame by frame. The precision, the economy of motion, nothing was wasted, nothing for show, just pure, lethal effectiveness. "Military," she murmured. Her security chief, Deshaun Miller, stood uncomfortably beside her and nodded. "Not just military. Special operations, most likely. They don't teach those takedown methods to standard infantry." "And we had him cleaning our bathrooms," Jade said, more to herself than to Deshaun. "How could we have missed this?" "Background screenings for custodial staff aren't exactly exhaustive," Deshaun admitted. "Basic criminal history, employment history, that's it." Jade tapped her fingers on her desk, her mind racing. A man with that level of skill doesn't take a minimum wage job by choice. Find me everything on him." Her assistant, Maya Lewis, entered with a file. Malcolm Hayes, employed by BuildCare Janitorial Services for the last 3 years. Before that, his record is blank. Nobody is a blank slate, Maya. Dig deeper, Jade commanded, her eyes fixed on the screen where Malcolm moved with deadly grace. "I've tried," Maya responded. "His records are unusually thin, almost as if they've been scrubbed. Use my government contacts, Department of Defense. Someone there will know who he is." By that afternoon, Jade had assembled fragments of his life: an honorable discharge, sealed military files, a deceased wife named Alana, and a child. The pieces didn't create a full picture, but they were enough to confirm that the janitor who had saved her was hiding a significant past. She paid a visit to the Department of Defense, calling in favors that had helped Ellington Tech secure lucrative government contracts. An old general finally told her what her own team couldn't uncover. Hayes was one of the finest we ever had. Delta Force, specialized in hostage rescue. He led the Jensen Embassy extraction in 2018, saved 34 civilians without a single shot fired, a strategic genius. The Pentagon was grooming him for the highest levels of command. "Then what happened?" Jade asked. The general's expression softened. "His wife fell ill. A very aggressive cancer. He requested a stateside transfer to be with her. After she passed away, he resigned his commission, vanished off the grid. Some speculated he'd enter the private sector. Security firms would have paid a fortune for his skills. But he just disappeared," Jade mused, "until he showed up as a janitor in my building." The general sighed. "A man with his background cleaning floors, Ms. Ellington. He must have his reasons." That evening, Jade waited by Malcolm's old, dented pickup truck in the employee lot. He spotted her immediately, his body language shifting into a state of heightened alert. His posture became defensive, his eyes scanning, the old habits dying hard. "Miss Ellington." "Mr. Hayes." Or would Captain Hayes be more appropriate? His face was an unreadable mask, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. "I'm just a janitor now. A janitor who used Delta Force techniques to save my life." A heavy silence hung between them, a standoff of wills. Finally, he spoke. "What do you want?" "I want to offer you a job. Head of my personal security." The salary would be substantial. Not interested. He tried to walk past her. Jade, unaccustomed to being turned down, stepped into his path. "You have a skill set that people would pay millions for. Why are you wasting it mopping floors?" Malcolm's calm facade cracked for a moment, revealing a flash of raw pain. "Those skills came with a price I'm no longer willing to pay. I have a daughter who needs a stable life, not a father who vanishes on classified missions or attracts powerful enemies. I could change your life, your daughter's life. My life doesn't need changing, Ms. Ellington. I am exactly where I need to be." "Hiding? Wasting your potential?" Something ignited in his eyes, the first genuine emotion she had seen from him. "There is nothing wasted about keeping the promises I make to my daughter. Now, if you'll excuse me, Zara is waiting." Jade watched him drive off, feeling a mix of irritation and fascination. In her world, every person had a price. Ambitious executives, politicians, even her rivals, they all eventually succumbed to the right offer. What would it take to change Malcolm Hayes' mind? The next day, a security assessment appeared on her desk. It was unauthorized, incredibly detailed, and it pinpointed 12 critical vulnerabilities in her company's security protocols, from building entry points to her executive travel routines. Each weakness was meticulously analyzed, complete with proposed countermeasures. The unsigned note attached simply said, "Fix these. Consider it a professional courtesy." Jade examined the report, recognizing its brilliance. This wasn't just experience. It was genius-level strategic analysis. She made a call. "Find me everything you can on Malcolm Hayes' daughter. Her school, her schedule, everything." Her assistant hesitated. "Are you certain that's—" "I don't pay you to ask questions, Maya." Later, reviewing the file, Jade learned that Zara attended Westbrook Elementary. Recent notes from her teacher mentioned the girl was having trouble with a science project, a model of the solar system in particular. Jade allowed herself a small smile. She had found her angle, not through the father's ambition, but through his daughter's needs. She also discovered they lived in the Oak Ridge Apartments, a complex slated for demolition to make way for luxury condominiums. The developer was Ellington Holdings, her separate real estate company. Jade stared at the information, an unfamiliar sensation stirring within her. These weren't just names on a document. This child was about to lose her home because of a decision Jade had approved without a moment's thought. Her usual ruthless pragmatism suddenly felt hollow. For the first time in a very long time, Jade Ellington felt a crack in her carefully constructed armor. On Saturday morning, Zara Hayes sat on the small balcony of their apartment, wrestling with a science project. Her model of the solar system refused to stay together. Malcolm tried to assist, but his expertise was in threat assessment, not balancing plastic planets. "Why won't Jupiter stay on?" Zara asked, her voice laced with frustration as the large sphere once again dropped from its wire. "Maybe Jupiter is just feeling a bit rebellious today," Malcolm offered, which earned him a small smile. A knock on the door interrupted them. Malcolm immediately tensed, old instincts kicking in. Peeking through the peephole, he saw Jade Ellington, dressed down in jeans and a simple blouse, looking almost unrecognizable without her corporate persona. Her locks were pulled back in a simple ponytail, making her seem younger and less imposing. "How did you find my address?" he asked through the small opening of the chain door. "I'm a CEO, Mr. Hayes." "Information is my currency." Her confident delivery couldn't quite mask the uncertainty in her eyes. "What do you want?" Jade shifted her weight, looking uncharacteristically uncomfortable. "I heard your daughter was having trouble with a science project. I have a background in engineering." Before he could object, Zara appeared at his side, her curiosity winning out over her shyness. "Is she here to help with my planets?" Zara asked, peering around her father. "Mine keep falling." Jade knelt down to Zara's level, a graceful movement that surprised Malcolm. "I built one just like it when I was your age." "If your dad says it's okay, I could show you a few tricks." There was a genuine warmth in her voice that had been absent during their other encounters, and it made Malcolm pause. Zara looked up at him with pleading eyes, an expression that reminded him so much of Alana. "Fine," he conceded, "but I'll be right here." The cramped apartment seemed to startle Jade, though she concealed it well. There were water stains on the ceiling, and mismatched furniture filled the small living room. But she also saw bookshelves overflowing with children's books, organized by reading level, and a wall covered in Zara's drawings, each one carefully mounted on colorful construction paper. A photograph of Malcolm, Zara, and a smiling woman with Zara's eyes, Alana, Jade guessed, was displayed prominently, its frame worn but cherished. For 3 hours, Jade helped Zara build her solar system. She explained gravitational pull in a way a child could grasp, her typical corporate decisiveness replaced by patient instruction. Zara was a rapt audience, asking sharp questions that made Jade smile. You have to balance the weight distribution, Jade explained, helping Zara adjust the wire frame. Think of it like a seesaw. If Jupiter is heavy on this side, what do you need on the other side? Saturn and its rings, Zara shouted, her face lighting up with understanding. Malcolm watched them from the kitchen as he prepared lunch. He saw Jade's eyes linger on their simple meal, the careful portioning that came with a tight budget. He sensed her awareness was not pity, but genuine observation. She was gathering details, learning about their life from its small, telling signs. Why do you live in that big building all by yourself? Zara asked abruptly, with a child's unfiltered honesty. Jade froze for a second. How do you know I live alone? Daddy says people's eyes tell their stories. Your eyes look like Daddy's did after Mommy went to heaven. Malcolm started to intervene. Zara, that's not polite. But Jade answered softly, I work a lot. It doesn't leave much time for anything else. That sounds lonely, Zara stated with simple, brutal clarity. Zara, Malcolm warned again. But Jade shook her head. It's okay. To Zara, she added, sometimes it is lonely. But I have my company. It's like a different kind of family. Do they make you birthday cakes? Zara pressed. Not really. Then it's not a real family, Zara concluded with unwavering certainty. Later, as Jade was preparing to leave, the finished solar system spinning in perfect equilibrium in the afternoon sun, Malcolm walked her to her car. It was a modest sedan, not the luxury vehicle he'd anticipated. You didn't have to do that, he said, nodding back toward the apartment. I wanted to, Jade replied. She paused. Your daughter is exceptional. She is. His face hardened slightly. You know this building is scheduled for demolition. Yes. 3 months to find a new place we can afford. The company behind it is Ellington Holdings. I know who's displacing 30 families for luxury condos. His voice was steady, but the accusation was clear. Jade flinched. I came here to tell you I've stopped the project. The building will be renovated instead. All current tenants can stay. Malcolm searched her face for any sign of a lie. Why? It's a business decision. Renovations offer better tax incentives. She avoided his gaze. Thank you, he said simply, his tone offering neither effusive gratitude nor lingering anger. As Jade drove off, she called her office. Cancel my dinner with the Japanese investors. And find out which schools in the Oak Ridge district need funding for their science programs. That night, back in her penthouse, Jade stood by her window. For the first time, she saw not just a collection of buildings and assets, but homes filled with people like Zara and Malcolm. She opened her laptop and began researching Delta Force hostage negotiation tactics. To understand Malcolm Hayes, she needed to understand the world that had made him. Meanwhile, Malcolm tucked Zara into bed, their nightly routine the same despite the day's unusual visitor. I like your friend, Zara mumbled sleepily, clutching a stuffed rabbit that had survived years of love. She's not my friend, sweetie. She's my boss's boss's boss. She looks at you like Mommy did in the videos. Like you're her favorite person to find. Malcolm kissed her forehead, brushing off the comment as a child's fantasy. But later that night he found himself holding Jade's business card, turning it over and over in his hands, wondering about the woman behind the CEO title who would spend her Saturday helping a stranger's child. Monday morning, Malcolm found a note tucked into his cleaning supplies. Security office, 10 a.m., J.E. He considered ignoring it, but his curiosity got the better of him. In the security office, Jade was waiting with Deshaun Miller, her head of security. The tension between them was thick. We have a situation, she began without any preamble. A former employee is threatening the Singapore contract signing. She gestured toward Deshawn. I've fired him. Deshawn started to protest. Ms. Ellington, with all due respect, you missed 3 infiltration attempts last month. Mr. Hayes caught all of them. She pushed a tablet toward Malcolm, displaying security footage with highlighted timestamps. You've been running your own security sweeps on your shifts. Malcolm slid the tablet back, unsurprised that she had discovered his nocturnal patrols. Force of habit. I'm offering you a consulting job. 2 weeks. Review our security protocols for the Singapore trip. Your regular position will be covered. You'll be paid in advance. She slid an envelope across the table. Malcolm opened it, and his eyes widened at the amount on the check. This was enough to fully fund Zara's college education. That's the idea. He studied her. Why me? Because you see what others don't. And because you have more at stake in keeping me alive than anyone else. What's that supposed to mean? Jade's eyes flickered meaningfully toward the envelope. I also included a lease agreement. The renovation of your apartment building includes the creation of a building manager position, free housing, decent salary. For the first time, Malcolm cracked a small smile. That's bribery, Ms. Ellington. It's an investment, Mr. Hayes. Over the next 2 weeks, they worked side by side. Malcolm completely revamped her security measures, identifying weaknesses with an instinct that astonished Jade. They spent long nights in her office planning, and their professional dynamic slowly thawed. Jade learned that Malcolm was fluent in 4 languages, played chess at a master's level, and possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of military history. Malcolm discovered that Jade had taught herself to code at 13, climbed mountains on her rare vacations, and was the anonymous benefactor for several children's hospitals. You don't publicize your charity work, he noted one evening as they reviewed surveillance feeds. Publicity creates expectations, and expectations create limits, she answered. I prefer to be free. Is that why you live alone? For freedom. Jade paused the footage. I live alone because relationships require vulnerability, and vulnerability is a weakness. I wasn't built for weakness. Neither was I, Malcolm said quietly. Until Zara. When Zara came down with a bad case of strep throat, Jade showed up at their apartment with specialized medicine from her private physician and sat with the child so Malcolm could shower and rest. Why are you helping us? He asked later, as they shared coffee on the balcony while Zara finally slept peacefully. Jade considered her answer carefully. For most of my life, every relationship has been a transaction. People want money, connections, favors. You were the first person in years to refuse my offer. She paused. It made me curious what it would feel like to help someone who expects nothing from me. Days later, the Singapore delegation arrived. Jade and Malcolm moved through the high-security event, communicating flawlessly through earpieces. When Jade masterfully de-escalated a tense moment in the negotiations using a conflict resolution strategy Malcolm had taught her, he felt a surge of unexpected pride. That's the 3rd concession they've made, Jade murmured as they stepped aside during a break. Your idea about creating artificial time pressure was perfect. You executed it flawlessly, Malcolm acknowledged. You would have been a good negotiator in the field. High-level business isn't all that different from a hostage situation, she replied. There are just fewer guns, usually. That evening, Jade invited Malcolm and Zara to her penthouse to celebrate the successful signing. Zara explored the vast space with wide-eyed wonder, while Jade showed Malcolm her collection of rare books. First editions, he noted, impressed, as he carefully handled a leather-bound volume. My one indulgence. Books were my refuge when I was a child. From what? Jade's fingers traced the spine of another book. foster homes, group facilities. After my parents died, I became a ward of the state. Books were the only consistent thing in my life when everything else was chaos. Malcolm's hand brushed against hers as he reached for the same book. For a long moment, neither of them moved, the space between them charged with unspoken understanding. The connection was broken by Zara's voice calling from the kitchen. They found her in the middle of an attempt to make dinner, a chaotic mess of ingredients spread everywhere. Flour dusted her cheeks, and pasta was scattered across the pristine counter. "I wanted to make something special," Zara explained, her voice trembling with distress. "Daddy said you probably never get home-cooked meals." Jade stared at the disaster and, to Malcolm's astonishment, let out a genuine laugh. "I haven't cooked since college. My last attempt set off the fire alarms in 3 separate dorms. The 3 of them worked together to create a simple pasta dinner." Jade, who could negotiate billion-dollar deals without flinching, earnestly followed Zara's instructions on the proper technique for stirring sauce. Later, with Zara asleep on the expensive sofa, Malcolm and Jade stood on her balcony. The city glittered below them like a carpet of stars. "The security consultation is officially finished," she said. "I'd like to offer you a permanent job." Malcolm shook his head. "I told you I don't want to go back to that world." "Not security. Director of Special Projects, Problem-Solving, Strategy. You'd work directly with me. Normal hours, no danger." He looked out at the city lights. "Why?" Jade turned to face him. "Because in 2 weeks, you identified flaws in my company that no one else has seen in years. Because you challenge me when everyone else just agrees with me." She hesitated. "And because when you and Zara leave tonight, this place is going to feel emptier than it ever has before." Malcolm considered her words, and the woman saying them. "I'll think about it." As they were getting ready to leave, Zara gave Jade a tight hug. "Can we come back soon? I've never been this high up before." Jade looked at Malcolm, her vulnerability clear in her eyes. "That's up to your father." The elevator doors closed, leaving Jade standing alone. In the lobby, Malcolm stopped abruptly. "Wait here with the security guard," he told Zara. "I forgot something." He rode the elevator back up to the penthouse. Jade opened the door, surprised to see him. "I'll take the job," he said simply. "But I have conditions." Her smile was genuine and full of relief. "Name them." "Zara always comes first. No late nights unless it's a true emergency. No travel without significant notice." "Done. And we keep our personal and professional lives separate." Jade's expression flickered. "Is there a personal relationship, Mr. Hayes?" "There could be," he admitted. "That's why we need rules." She nodded. "Anything else?" "Yes, your driver picks Zara up from school on the days I can't. I don't trust the school bus system." Jade smiled. "Already taken care of." 3 months later, Jade addressed her executive board with Malcolm, her new director of special projects, at her side. Their professional synergy had revitalized Ellington Tech. Employee morale had soared, and innovative solutions flourished under Malcolm's unconventional methods. The company's stock price had climbed by 20% since he joined. After the meeting, Jade returned to her office and found an email. It contained photos of her, Malcolm, and Zara at the park, at Zara's school, outside their apartment. The attached message was simple. Powerful people shouldn't have such obvious weaknesses. "Tobias Crane," Jade explained when Malcolm saw the pictures. "A former business partner. I testified against him for fraud. He was released from prison last month." "We need to lock everything down," Malcolm insisted, already running through a mental checklist of their vulnerabilities. "No, I refuse to let Zara's life be turned upside down." "The Singapore contract renewal is tomorrow. It's the biggest deal of my career. Crane is just trying to intimidate me. Jade, that's my decision, Malcolm, she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. The signing ceremony took place under heightened but discreet security. Jade charmed the Singaporean executives, flawlessly recalling details about their families and past conversations. Malcolm stayed in the background, a vigilant shadow scanning for any threat. Midway through the event, he spotted a caterer he didn't recognize. The man's posture, the way he methodically scanned the exits, the slightly too formal way he stood, all were red flags for Malcolm. At that same moment, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Zara's teacher. Your daughter was not picked up from school. Is everything all right? A cold dread washed over him. He urgently signaled to Jade, showing her the message. Go, she said instantly, cutting off a conversation with the lead negotiator. I'll handle this. At Zara's school, the teacher explained, a woman came. She had Zara's picture and said she was from your office, Mr. Hayes. She had all the emergency pickup authorization codes. Malcolm's phone rang. It was Crane's voice. Your daughter is safe, Hayes. For now. Tell Ellington to transfer $20 million to this account, or she'll never see the child again. Jade arrived minutes later, her company's resources already in motion. We'll pay him, she said without a second thought. No, Malcolm's voice was deadly calm. The moment we pay, we lose all our leverage. Zara becomes expendable. We can't risk her life. Trust me, Jade. I've managed 37 hostage situations. I've never lost one. His eyes locked on hers. But I need you to follow my instructions to the letter. For a woman who lived by her own control, it was the ultimate leap of faith. After a long moment, she nodded. Malcolm made contact with Crane, his Delta Force training evident in every carefully chosen word. He built rapport, created false deadlines, and extracted key information about Zara's whereabouts using subtle psychological manipulation. Jade watched him transform. He was no longer the quiet janitor or the brilliant strategist. He was a precision weapon aimed at a single target. She made calls at his command, deploying her resources exactly as he instructed, fighting every instinct to take over. When Malcolm pinpointed an abandoned warehouse as the likely location, Jade insisted on going with him, overriding his objections. She's your daughter, Jade said fiercely. But she's important to me too. At the warehouse, Malcolm started to outline a diversionary plan. Jade cut him off. I'm going in. I'm the primary target. Crane wants me, not Zara. Absolutely not. This is not a debate. You taught me that leaders have to make the hard calls. Her voice softened. Let me do this, Malcolm. For Zara. For you. Before he could argue, Jade stepped out into the open, calling Crane's name. As expected, Crane emerged, his gun aimed at her. The great Jade Ellington, he sneered. Come to rescue some janitor's kid. Jade stood her ground. I've transferred $10 million. You'll get the rest when Zara is safe. Crane laughed. You're not in charge here anymore, Jade. Neither are you, she replied calmly. The building is surrounded, but I'm offering you an out. The money, a private jet, and the disappearance protocols my company developed for high-risk witnesses. While Jade kept Crane talking, using the negotiation tactics Malcolm had taught her, Malcolm slipped through the shadows. He found Zara in a back office with a single guard. Daddy, she whispered when he appeared. Shh, he cautioned, silently neutralizing the guard. Jade is here too. We're all going home. The standoff escalated when Crane realized Jade's money transfer included a tracking protocol. He raised his gun, but Jade didn't even flinch. You won't shoot me, she said with absolute conviction. And why is that? Crane snarled. Because I'm not what you really want. Revenge won't pay off your debts. As Crane hesitated, Malcolm got Zara safely outside. He gave Jade the signal through their earpiece. Package is secure. Jade's posture shifted almost imperceptibly. It's over, Tobias. Crane lunged at her, but Jade sidestepped with a precision Malcolm had taught her, using Crane's own momentum to send him stumbling. As he fell, security forces swarmed the warehouse. Outside, Zara ran first to her father, then, surprisingly, threw her arms around Jade as well. The three of them embraced, a tableau of an improbable family. Later, after Zara was sleeping safely in her bed, Jade faced Malcolm in their living room. "You risked everything," he said quietly. "Why?" Jade's composure finally shattered. "Because for the first time in my life, something is more important than my success or my control." Her voice trembled. "You and Zara, you've become my family. I couldn't stand the thought of losing that." Malcolm took her hand. "When Alana died, I thought I would never be whole again. I built walls to protect Zara and myself." He met her gaze. "And now I see that those same walls were just keeping us locked in. I don't want to be protected anymore." Neither does Zara. Jade leaned toward him, her vulnerability and strength in perfect balance. Neither do I. 6 months later, Ellington Tech headquarters was buzzing. The company had leveraged the crisis to create an industry-leading crisis response division with Malcolm at its head. Their combined approach, blending Jade's business acumen with Malcolm's strategic genius, had revolutionized corporate security throughout Silicon Valley. In the boardroom, Jade addressed a group of international investors. "Ellington Tech isn't just changing technology, we're changing lives." She gestured to the presentation screen, which displayed details of the company's new foundation, the Second Chance Initiative, which provided career retraining for veterans and single parents. The program had already placed 50 former military personnel in high-level cybersecurity jobs, harnessing skills that might have otherwise been lost. Malcolm's connections in the veteran community had opened doors that Jade's money never could. Afterwards, a board member, Lawrence Palmer, approached Jade. "A remarkable year." "The Hayes influence, I assume." "Malcolm helped me see potential I was overlooking, in the company and in myself." "Speaking of Hayes," Palmer continued, lowering his voice, "there are rumors circulating about your personal involvement." Jade's expression turned to ice. "My personal life is not a matter for the board. It is when it could affect shareholder perception." "A CEO involved with a former janitor, director of special projects," she corrected him sharply, "with military credentials that most of our security consultants can't touch, and a strategic mind that has increased our crisis division's profits by 40%. Nevertheless, Jade cut in, "I have never sought this board's approval for my personal choices, and I am not about to start now. Judge me by my results, not by my relationships." She left Palmer speechless and found Malcolm waiting for her. He read her expression instantly. "Board trouble?" "Nothing I can't handle." She checked her watch. "We need to go. Zara's presentation starts in an hour." At Westbrook Elementary, they slipped into the crowded science fair. Zara stood proudly next to her project, Structural Integrity in Emergency Shelters, inspired by Malcolm's military background and Jade's engineering knowledge. "My research indicates that triangular supports distribute weight most effectively," Zara explained to the judges, her voice clear and confident. "I tested various configurations using these stress models." The principal announced the winners. "First place, Zara Hayes." As Zara accepted her trophy, she beamed at Jade and Malcolm. "My dad taught me that sometimes buildings fall down," she told the audience. "But if they have the right support, they can be built back even stronger. Jade squeezed Malcolm's hand, both of them understanding the metaphor. Later, at Jade's penthouse, now warmed by family photos and Zara's art, Malcolm opened an official letter. His military service record had been amended to acknowledge his previously classified missions, approving several long-overdue commendations. "How?" he asked Jade. "I may have spoken to a few people at the Pentagon," she said with a smile. "Your daughter deserves to know officially that her father is a hero." That evening, news outlets reported on Ellington Tech's Revolutionary Veterans Program, with Malcolm Hayes named as its director. His phone lit up with messages from old comrades, men and women who, like him, had faded into civilian life, now being offered a path back to meaningful work. One text stood out. It was from his former commanding officer. "Knew you'd find your way back, Hayes. Different battlefield, same warrior." Jade found Malcolm on the balcony, staring at his phone. "Any regrets?" she asked softly. "Gratitude," he corrected. "I spent years hiding who I was because I thought invisibility was safety." He turned to her. "Now I know that being seen, truly seen by the right person, is the only real security there is." Jade leaned against him. "The board questioned my judgment today. About us. What did you tell them? That some investments don't show up on quarterly reports." She looked up at him. "And that some risks are always worth taking." 1 year later, Zara's 8th birthday party had transformed Jade's once sterile penthouse into a vibrant celebration. Children from Zara's class explored the space with awe, their excited voices filling rooms that had once known only silence. Parents who had once whispered about the unlikely couple now saw their genuine bond, their surprise replaced by acceptance. In the kitchen, Jade was placing candles on a homemade cake, her third try after 2 spectacular failures. Malcolm came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist as he watched her meticulous work. "Not bad for a CEO who couldn't boil water a year ago," he murmured into her ear. She leaned back into his embrace. "I had a good teacher." "Zara, you mean?" "You still burn toast." Jade's laughter, free and genuine, was a sound she had rediscovered with this family. Their easy intimacy followed them into the living room, where Zara was opening gifts with her friends. The mountain of presents was a testament to the community they had built around themselves. When she got to Jade's gift, she gasped. It was a set of adoption papers, carefully framed next to a photo of the 3 of them from a camping trip. "So she can be my official mom," Zara explained to her curious friends, her casual tone belying the months of legal hurdles Jade had overcome. But she already was. Later, after the guests had gone, the 3 of them sat on the balcony, watching the sunset paint the city in hues of gold and crimson. Zara was nestled between them, half asleep. "I never thought I would have this again," Malcolm said, his voice soft in the evening air. Jade touched the simple ring on her finger. It wasn't the large diamond the world might have expected, but a band Malcolm had designed, incorporating metal from his military dog tags and a small stone from Alana's original ring, with Zara's blessing. "I never thought I would have it at all." Zara stirred. "Tell the story again, about how you met." Jade smiled. "Which version? The official one or the real one?" "The real one," Zara mumbled, "where Daddy was a secret superhero." Malcolm chuckled. "I wasn't a superhero, sweetie. You saved Jade from the bad guys." "And then," Jade continued, "your dad and you saved me from something much scarier." Zara yawned. "From what?" "From believing that success meant being alone," Jade said, gently stroking Zara's hair. "You both taught me that real strength comes from connection, not from being untouchable." As Zara finally drifted off to sleep, Jade and Malcolm shared a look of deep understanding. They had both been remade. He had gone from an invisible man to someone who stood proudly in the light. She had gone from an isolated CEO to someone who saw vulnerability as a form of courage. In the fading light, their small family represented a future neither could have imagined a year before, a second chance neither thought they deserved. The journey hadn't been easy. Merging their two worlds had tested them. Malcolm still woke from nightmares sometimes, and Jade occasionally retreated behind her old emotional walls. But they had learned to navigate those moments together, their bond strengthened by their shared history. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," Malcolm whispered to his sleeping daughter. Jade took his hand, completing their circle. "Happy new beginning to all of us." Below them, the city hummed with relentless energy. But up here, in this quiet moment, 3 once broken lives had found a way to be whole together, proving that sometimes being saved is only the beginning of the story.